Good evening. It's so good to be with you this evening. This is an evening that I have been looking forward to since the elders discussed this, and this is probably something that should have done a long time ago with the various men that we have been supporting. If you would be turned over to Matthew chapter 28, we're going to begin there in just a moment. And I know that on the slide before the service started, it said sermon and had my name, so this is not going to be your typical sermon. I almost told Nate, hey, why don't you change that to report? Because this is not going to be your typical sermon. So one of the things that we are very blessed to do is be able to help other men, both in this country and in other countries, and so we want to talk about that just a little bit this evening so that we can have a better understanding of the men that we are supporting and the work that they are doing. But I wanted to start over in Matthew chapter 28, and so as I've been going through preparing for this, I've spent a lot of time thinking about Acts, the whole book of Acts, and how some of these men, with the work that they're doing, both locally in their congregations, but then also elsewhere, it reminds me so much of the book of Acts. But of course, Matthew chapter 28 is something that we're all very familiar with, and it's something that, as we've studied through Bible Authority, I think that it's probably been mentioned a few times, but I want to begin in verse 18. It says, "And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth." And then verse 19, "Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." So the commission was to go into all the world to make disciples. And I actually have that underlined in my Bible there, make disciples. Then I want you to turn over to Acts chapter 14. And I appreciate Milo reading that, at least a part of that for us. But one of the reasons that I have that underlined in my Bible is because I'm reminding my own self that I want to turn back to Acts chapter 14 and see men doing this very thing. Jesus said, make disciples. So Milo read for us beginning in verse 24. I actually want to back up to verse 21 there. In Acts chapter 14, it says, after they had preached the gospel to that city, and then this is New American Standard, notice what it says, and had made many disciples. Jesus said, make disciples. Well, they were preaching the gospel to them, and they had made many disciples. And after that, they returned to Lystra and to Iconium and to Antioch. And then notice so they had made disciples. They had established these congregations. And one of the things that they had done there in verse 22, strengthening the souls of the disciples, encouraging them to continue in the faith, and saying, through many tribulations, we must enter the kingdom of God. And this is exactly what these men that we support do. They are making disciples, they are establishing congregations, but they have such a huge role in going back to the congregations that they have helped establish to strengthen these brothers and sisters, and it is so encouraging to me, and I hope that it is to you as well. Verse 23, when they had appointed elders for them in every church, having prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord, to whom they had believed. And then picking up there where Milo read, they passed through Pisidia and came to Pamphylia. When they had spoken the word in Perga, and they came to Italia, from there they sailed to Antioch, from which they had been commended by the grace of God for the work that they had accomplished. When they had arrived and gathered the church together, they began to report all the things that God had done with them, and how he had opened a door of faith to the Gentiles. So that's what we're doing tonight. I'm not the man that did the work, per se, but in all honesty, we're all joint participants in the work that has been done, but I'm the one that is going to give the report. Now, verse 28 says, and they spent a long time with the disciples. Hopefully, we're not going to spend a long time here tonight. Maybe we'll just spend a little bit of time. The other, or the last passage I would like to look at before we actually kind of start talking about some of the men and some of the work that they've done is over in 3 John. And this is something that, again, as I've gone through and reading some of these reports, corresponding with these men, this is a passage that came to mind and I want us to understand. And so the three men that we're specifically going to be talking about tonight are John Gentry, Benjamin Nkrumah, and Mario Rubio. These are the men that we support on a monthly basis and that we have all year, and something that we are also considering for next year as well. But these are the three men that we have supported on a monthly basis in 2025. So in 3 John, beginning in verse 5, it says, "Beloved, you are acting faithfully in whatever you accomplish for the brethren, and especially when they are strangers, and they have testified to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on their way in a manner worthy of God. For they went out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles." And I want you to notice verse 8. "Therefore, we ought to support such men so that we may be fellow workers with the truth." So John is writing this passage is writing this letter to a Christian named Gaius, and he's talking about the way that he has supported these preachers, and it just flat out says there that many of them were strangers, and yet he's opening his door to them, he's giving them support, aiding them, and this is what we are doing. We are aiding in the work that John, Benjamin, and Mario are doing, and this is all over the world, and so we have become fellow workers in the truth, and I can't emphasize that enough. We send them support to allow them to be able to do the work that they do. We are fellow workers in the truth. And I want to emphasize that so that we recognize the fellowship that we have in the good work that these brothers are doing. And so as we go through and we look at some of these pictures, and I've got so many pictures of baptisms, especially from Mario and from Benjamin. These are souls that we are helping to save. We are helping to support these men, and we again are fellow workers with them in the truth. So I'm going to start with John, and most people I think probably know this. John's my brother from the same mother. But just in case you didn't know, I want to give you just a little bit of an understanding of John's family. So, of course, you've got John here, and then his wife Stacy, and then his children Sarah and her husband Alec, and then his son Jacob and his new wife Shay, his daughter Juliana, and her new husband Jacob. So yeah, you got 2 Jacobs now. And then his children Emmylou. Emmylou's down in Florida College right now, and then John, Luke, and Maylin. And the other big news about John, something to be aware of, something that you can be praying for. John's going to be a grandfather next year. Well, I guess he's a grandfather now, but he's got 2 grandchildren going to be born next year. Sarah's pregnant, and Juliana is also pregnant. So big news for John and his family with that. Of course, they're very, very happy. Jacob and Shay still live right there close. Juliana and Jacob live around Louisville, and then Sarah and her husband Alec live over in Illinois. So one of the things that we know John for is his work that he does in Europe, and he does a lot of work in Europe. But John is still the evangelist at the Church of Christ in Galena, Indiana. If you don't know where that's at, that's just north of Louisville. So after you cross the river, just to the east there is where he is the local evangelist. And so he's got this local work of supporting the congregation there, supporting that community there, while he still does much of his ongoing work with the Christians over in Europe. And so much of his time throughout the week really is split. And so he's got, of course, the time that he has to work on his lessons there for Galena, but he's also got these Bible classes that he does on a weekly basis in Europe. And John is very, very active, very, very busy, and doing the Lord's work and working with new converts. John is very good about just sitting down with you and having a conversation. He's very easy to have a conversation with, and so he's very good with his personal work and trying to grow the Lord's church even in southern Indiana there. And one of the things that he's focused on throughout this year in 2025 has been preaching extensively this series through the book of Exodus. And throughout that study, he's focused a lot on discipleship, loyalty, spiritual maturity, Christian living, prayer, and family life. And one of the things that John and Stacy both do is they spend a lot of time with individual either couples that may be newlyweds and doing marriage counseling, or those that may be new parents as well, and helping with that and doing those classes. And so we've been studying through Mind Your King. John's actually been co-teaching a 6-month study of Doy Moyer's Mind Your King this year as well. So he got 6 months. I guess Jesse got 6 months. I got not even 3 months, I think, with the college class, but we still got it done, right? So they've been working through that locally at the congregation there in Galena. And then one of the things that we had the privilege of back in June is John actually came and gave us a report. So I'm not going to spend as much time talking about some of the work that he has done in Europe, but just to remind everybody, because John did come in June and gave us a report of the work that he had done there in Europe. But outside of the trips that he makes, he still does these weekly classes online, both on Fridays and Mondays. And he's been able to maintain this communication with these brethren and continue to be able to strengthen our brothers and sisters over in Eastern Europe. And this is one of the benefits of the technology that we have today. I mean, this is obviously something that wouldn't have been possible years ago, but being able to strengthen them from a distance and being able to continue with these studies on a weekly basis is something that I know John enjoys, and it's something that we should be very proud of, that we have, that we are able to support John in this work that he continues to do. So he did take the trip there to Belgium, Germany, and Lithuania earlier in the year, and then a little bit later with the trip to Moldova. And again, he's given us a report on that. And I know he's got some future plans with this as well. And those are things that when they come up, outside of supporting John on a monthly basis, there are times that we've supported him with these trips. Also, those that have gone with him, Philip Stuckey, we've helped support him as well. But I just, one of the things that I want each of you to know, obviously I'm a little bit closer to him because he is my brother, but John is someone that is a very, very hard worker. And he's very dedicated to the Lord's work, both locally and with the work that he has going on in Europe. John is very mindful of preaching the truth and making sure that he is only preaching the truth. And so he is someone that I'm thankful that we are able to support and appreciate the work that he has done. And a lot of this stuff, I think, are things that I've already covered. So moving on now to Benjamin. So this is Benjamin, and he locally works for the congregation in Sun City, Ghana. And I'll show a map here in just a second. So some of this, both with Benjamin and Mario, I'm trying to give myself a better understanding of where they live, where they preach, kind of the community that they're surrounded by. And you can kind of see this picture here. He's actually doing some preaching in the market, and this is what they have there in Sun City. It's just the open market. So that's basically their grocery store. But just a little bit about Benjamin. So this is his family. That's his wife, Rita, and then his daughter, Adom, who is 6, just turned 6 just here recently, here on the bottom. She actually is going to school. And then Chris is almost 2. And Chris has recently been sick, but doing a lot better now. But he's got a beautiful family. And so for those that may not be aware of Ghana, I think obviously this is over in Africa, and I wanted to zoom out just a little bit just to give us a reference point up here with Egypt. But besides working with congregations here in Ghana, I know that Benjamin has also done some work with congregations here in Nigeria. And so he is, it's about 12 miles from the southern coast. And so he's really close to the coast, the southern coast there of Ghana. And so when we hear this and we think, okay, well, we're supporting somebody in Ghana, we see this picture, he's preaching in this open market. I still think it's hard for us to wrap our minds around where Benjamin is working and what he is having to go through to actually to just do the Lord's work. And so, we talk and we joke sometimes and we complain even though Brother Jesse gave us that sermon about complaining. Sometimes we complain about the piddliest stuff, and you'll hear somebody, that's first world problems. And man, you can see some of the things that our brothers and sisters are dealing with in other parts of the world, and it really makes you recognize how blessed we really are. But we take a lot of these things for granted. We're going to leave here and drive home on our nice roads. We're going to go to our homes with nice heating and air conditioning. We may stop off at the grocery store to pick up something if we need that. Almost every one of us here fixing to walk outside and get in our own cars. They don't have any of this stuff. So specifically where he's at, it's mostly dirt roads. There's a lot of infrastructure issues, and so they often have issues with water and electricity. And they're not going home to some type of air conditioning. They've got just open windows or fans. Mostly they're walking or taking taxis, or they do have these things called trotros, which is like their community buses. And you can imagine with dirt roads and doing a lot of walking, the weather affects a whole lot of things, and it affects his ability to preach, even in the open market. And so these are things that he has to deal with. Another thing that he has to deal with the open market preaching, in one of his reports he talked about the local government there had some type of noise ordinance, and so they weren't able to preach as early. He has times where he's preaching at dawn. We've got some pictures. He's preaching at night, and so he's literally throughout the whole day, he's in these public areas oftentimes preaching and teaching lessons. But one of the beautiful things about Ghana is the willingness and the openness, the open minds of everyone that are there, and the ability to reach these people because they are so eager for the gospel. And whenever I know when I was going to Oklahoma State, there was a guy that would come, and he would have a speaker, and he would preach from the center of campus. I can't remember now what it was called. And everybody made fun of him. It's like nobody does that public type of preaching here, because you're most times going to get ridiculed and people don't want to hear it. There, that's what he does. And one of the things that we had helped support, I think even last year, was helping him get some equipment to be able to do this public type preaching. And he has great success with that. So one of the other things that I was looking up, so in Ghana, especially around this area, the average monthly income is around $2,300, which was actually more than what I was expecting, just kind of considering everything. But why do I bring all of this stuff up? Well, I think that, one, I want us to give us a better perspective, one on our own lives, but then also what these men are having to go through, the challenges that they face. And we have these minor setbacks sometimes that we act like are just such a big deal. And their challenges that they face and the struggles that they face are totally different than ours, but yet their faith is exactly the same. And one of the things that I want us to appreciate is the boldness that Mario has and those that he are teaching. And again, recognize that we are helping him in this, supporting him, and we are a part of this work. So here's just some of the pictures of Benjamin as he's preaching in the open market. And so whenever you look at Benjamin's reports throughout the year, one of the things that you'll see is he literally is just pouring himself into this on a daily basis. And whether that's locally there in Sun City or in other places. And one of the things that you'll recognize with the topics and the things that Benjamin is focusing on is the same things that we do too, because it's coming from God's Word. And so he started the year off actually with a gospel meeting that was really just on Christian maturity. And so he's trying to strengthen, he's trying to grow Christians, but while he's doing that, he's also having classes with new converts. And as these classes are ongoing, he is baptizing souls. And they're outside of the preaching that they're doing, they're handing out tracts. And I know very early on in the year, at one of the things they handed out over 250 tracts as they were trying to launch this community street preaching effort that they had. And they there are a lot of congregations that are, and I don't know relatively the proximity, but there was an event that they did back in March where they had, I think it was 25 or 26 congregations that were men from these congregations came together for a men's lectureship. And Benjamin was taking part in that and preaching. He does men's training. One of the things that I appreciate both about Benjamin and also Mario is they recognize that if I'm going to be able to continue this work, I have to be able to teach others to be able to preach and to teach, because I can't do it all. And that's one of the things that both of these men are very, very active in, and trying to train men to become preachers and teachers, again, as they're continuing with also teaching new converts and just constant evangelism, again, from daylight until dark. And one of the highlights for Benjamin, I know, was, I think it was October, that Chris Reeves, and so Chris is someone who's been here, we had a gospel meeting with. This is Bonnie's uncle from over in Clarksville. But he visited there in October and November. So you can see Chris is actually right up here in the top right with the congregation there in Sun City. And so one of the things that they also, outside of the men's trainings, you've got the kids' classes that you see over here in the upper left that they have ongoing, and then private studies that you see here in the picture on the bottom right. And these are all things that, again, they have continued throughout the year. So there's a closer picture of Chris on the left in the time that he was there in November and December. And throughout the year, I think almost in every month, in the reports, you'll see Benjamin mentioning about baptisms. And so most of them are taking place in this, and I actually asked him, I said, so where is this? And he didn't tell me specifically what lake, but this is a lake that's somewhat close by. And so I was also thinking, of course, we're blessed with Katie and Elise being baptized here recently, and we've literally just have it right behind us. Now, it was cold, and now we have a heated baptistry. And I mean, these people are just going out, to the lake, whatever closest body of water we can find to baptize people. So just some highlights from Benjamin's work. So total for the year, 13 souls were saved. Again, that's something that we rejoice with them in that. And some of the highlights just from his work as an evangelist. So he's doing this street preaching campaign all year long, dawn preaching nearly every week, except during, he had some health issues. And then I mentioned the government bans that they couldn't do it during that time. He's doing this market preaching, the preacher training with these men, the women's classes, the youth classes, and then cooperation with other congregations that he's trying to strengthen as well. And so it's just so much work that's being done by Benjamin. And when you look at some of the lessons that he's taught throughout the year, these are just kind of some of the themes that he's preached on. So salvation, obedience, spiritual renewal, Bible authority and the identity of the church, worship and proper congregational practice, Christian character, holiness, and everyday discipleship, and then continuing to follow up with new converts in the men's classes, and then continuing with the street preaching too. But I mean, again, just look at that picture. And I mean, it's just, again, I think we take for granted how easy I think that we have it. But Benjamin is someone who is a very hard worker. One thing specifically that we can pray for Benjamin is his wife, Rita. She does have issues with her back, and she does physical therapy, and he says that it's helped some, but she is supposed to be going and seeing a specialist. So pray for Rita in regards to her back. So Mario Rubio, so I should have said this on the onset. I'm probably going to mess up some of these names. And I was looking up, trying to Google, how do you pronounce, whatever it was. And I don't know. I'll do my best. But so Mario Rubio, he lives in the Philippines. He lives locally there in Morag, Sudlan, Cebu City. And I'll show a map of that here in just a second. And so outside of the preaching that he does there locally with the Morag congregation, Mario is doing an enormous amount of traveling and doing his work. And while he is trying to do his work as an evangelist, just because of the financial strain, he does still have to work some part-time, repairing cell phones and as a taxi driver and doing some other odds and ends things. And this isn't every month, but he does try to do this some. So I mentioned Ghana and what their monthly average monthly income is in the Philippines. Their average monthly income where he's located is $340 a month. So that's a big deal. So this is actually a picture of the congregation, the church's meeting place there in Morag, which actually is close to his home. And just a little bit about Mario. So this is his wife, Wilnie. And actually just this morning, because I had been trying to figure out, because when you read his reports, he talks about a son, Mark Paul Rubio, who is involved in the preaching, and he also mentions a son-in-law, Geneva Cadorna, and he's involved in the preaching. And so nowhere else does it really talk about his family, and so I had asked him, I said, well, how many kids do you actually have? Do you have any grandkids? And so he's got 7 children, 4 boys and 3 girls, and their ages range from 32 years old to 19 years old. 5 of his 7 children are married, and he's got 13 grandchildren that range in age from 15 to 3 months old. So he's pretty blessed with a pretty big family. And just back and forth some with Mario, he was telling me a little bit about his background and how he, I guess about 20 years ago, had gotten involved with the Methodist Church. And it wasn't until some years later that he was taught the truth, and since that time has become very, very effective as a minister in the Lord's work. So, just trying to get a better idea of where Mario and his family live. So, down here to the south is Australia. You've got Japan to the north, and so the Philippines is this group of islands right here. And so Mario works back and forth between these 2 islands, and the only way to get from one island to the other is via ferry. And so his son-in-law actually works for the congregation here in Dumaguete. And so between where Mario lives and his son-in-law, which he takes a lot of trips down here to strengthen the congregation and to help, it's like 6.5 hours, motorcycle plus ferry, plus then another motorcycle to get there. And so that's kind of the general area. And actually, when I was messaging back and forth with him this morning, he had already preached at 3 congregations. I think they're 14 hours ahead of us. So for them now, it's already Monday morning. But he had preached at 3 different congregations just kind of on this island here locally around close to Cebu City. So I just happened to see this, and this is actually... he lives in a very mountainous region. We'll talk about that just in a second. But this is a picture from waterfall that's right there very, very close to where Mario lives. And so you see that and you think, man, I think that's pretty beautiful. So this is the agricultural store there in Morag, so very close to where he lives. And I know Jesse talked about his time in the Philippines and kind of the riding along the roads. And if you look on a map and you look at some pictures, it's very, very remote. The area that he lives in is very remote. Now, it's not all dirt roads. There are some dirt roads, but it's basically just small farming communities. Some of the roads are very, very steep, and although many of them are paved in some form or fashion, they're still very, very rough. One of the things that you have with both Ghana and especially the Philippines is you have these weather events, and they just had a major weather event about a month ago that they lost power for a very long time, and when they do that, he has very poor internet. They also have a lot of water issues where they are at, both droughts, but then also an enormous amount of rain from typhoons. And so oftentimes for him, when he's going around to these other congregations, it requires a lot of hours on his part to get to these different places. And I can't remember if this is just me talking back and forth with him or if it's from a report, but Mario's dealing with a little bit of health problems himself, high blood pressure, and he mentions how he'll get on his motorcycle and he may be having to travel hours away, and he'll actually have to stop and just pull over on the side of the road and take a nap because it's such a taxing thing to do that. But he continues to do that. So I mentioned the two separate islands there, and so he's teaching there at multiple congregations across these two islands. He is very dependent upon his motorcycle, and I know that's something that the funds that we have supported him with on a monthly basis, some of that goes to actually just keeping the motorcycle up and running. And I mentioned the limited water and power. Oftentimes, when he sends an email or we communicate on WhatsApp, it may be a while, days, before I can hear back from him because he's like, sorry, I didn't have any internet service or didn't have any electricity. But one of the things that he is also spending a lot of time and effort is trying to train young men to be able to preach while he is away. So with the, and I can't remember what happened at the beginning of November. Was it an earthquake? Hurricane? It was a hurricane, okay. So Mario sent me a bunch of videos, and so this is one of, this is actually, you can see the cracks kind of, this is the second floor of his house, and when you think, oh man, he's got a two-story house, okay, no. But because of the cracks that you see around his foundation, water was actually just running into his house, so go ahead and play that one, Nate. And what you'll notice too as the camera spins around is this is where he lives, and then he'll spin around and you'll actually see the church's meeting place right there. So he actually lives right there close to the church's meeting place. And so in this video, he was just trying to show me the cracks where the rain was coming in. And then this is actually a road right there close, and so because of the hurricanes, typhoons, major rain events, they have a lot of landslides. And so obviously it can shut the roads down. Obviously any type of infrastructure that they may have had can get destroyed. Go ahead and play that one, Nate. So when you have this, obviously having a motorcycle is sometimes beneficial because you can get around some of the things, but then oftentimes the roads are just completely closed off because of the landslides. And then this last one actually is going to be inside. This is inside Mario's home, so it's standing water there in the floor. Go ahead, Nate, and play that one. So you can see they got stuff stacked up in the chairs just to try to keep it off of the floor. And there's a couple of videos. There's a few other people that I noticed. That's his wife, and I'm not for sure who all is currently living with him, but their house was in pretty bad shape. See the bucket there trying to catch some of the water, but their house was in pretty bad shape just because of the recent hurricane. So that just gives you a better idea of the living conditions of Mario and his family, and yet they don't use it as any type of excuse to not continue to do the work. So this is some pictures from several of the congregations that Mario has worked with. And one of the things that I have noticed both with Benjamin and also Mario is they actually hold a lot of gospel meetings. And that's the way that Mario started the year as well. And that was with his son-in-law and Dumaguette there. And just during that gospel meeting alone, there were 5 souls that were saved. And in each of these congregations that he's going to, and we read there in Acts how that they Paul and them went back and were strengthening the saints, and I had mentioned that that's what these men are doing so much. They're spending so much of their time doing that, which is such a valuable thing to do, and something that I'm so thankful that they are mindful of, and they continue to do that. And because of that, I mean, if you think about even just today, he was preaching at 3 different congregations. I mean, the amount of effort and the taxation on your body just from preaching, and then you're traveling, and then you're preaching, and then you're traveling, and then you're preaching, it can be very, very draining, especially with the fact that he has some health issues, and there are days that he's just teaching or preaching all day long. This is what he is doing lessons in the morning, doing lessons in the afternoon, doing lessons at night, doing these things. And he can travel up to 65, 75 miles one way just to do that. And then we mentioned going down to Duguette, taking 6.5 hours just to do that. And so it's something that is very taxing on these men, but yet they continue to do it with the support of their families. And that's one of the things that Mario is very good about. In his reports, he talks about the support of Wilnie, his wife, and how that she is very supportive in his work. So we saw the pictures there of Benjamin and the baptisms that are taking place. And one of the things that you'll notice from different baptisms that Mario will send out in his reports, it could be anywhere. And there are videos that go along with all of these. And anywhere that you can find a body of water large enough to immerse somebody, you can see that right there in the middle doing it in the pools. And so some of the highlights from Mario throughout the year, and because of the issues that he's had with power and different things, there's actually a period of time, I think it's July and August maybe, there's a period of time there that we don't have any information, but just with the information we have, he's had 30 baptisms throughout the year. And of course, he's continuing to preach regularly there in Morague, his local congregation, in Cebu City, Dumaguete, these other places, holding gospel meetings on a regular basis, doing these training classes to be able to strengthen these young men, to be able to preach and to teach. And again, doing most of his traveling over motorcycle. And then thankfully he does have other congregations that he is working with and doing coordinated things and continuing to grow the work. And again, it's just something that I'm thankful that we can be a part of. So looking at some of the themes that he has preached throughout the year. So salvation and baptism, Bible authority and the identity of the church, worship and congregational life, spiritual growth and Christian character, and then doing these different multi-day gospel meetings on authority, salvation, and then also the church. So I hope that from this you can get an appreciation for what these men and what their families are going through. And it is something that it's very encouraging to me, and I'm thankful that we can be a part of their work. We turn over to Romans chapter 10. As we close, I just want to look at a few verses over there in Romans chapter 10. But one of the things that I will also say is these men and their families are very, very appreciative of the support. And all of these men have support from other congregations, but they're very, very thankful, and they all wanted me to express their appreciation to the congregation here for supporting them, for the work that they are able to do, and I'm very, very thankful that we are able to support all of these men in their work. So over in Romans chapter 10, beginning in verse 13, it says, "For whoever will call on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how will they believe in him in whom they have not heard? And how will they hear without a preacher? How will they preach unless they are sent? Just as it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news of good things." And I used to joke about this passage just because of my brother. And I've seen his feet, and there ain't nothing beautiful about them. But when you recognize the work, the tireless work that these men and their families are doing, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news of good things. And we are, it's some, I go back to Matthew 28 too, and I think about the work. We live in Cookeville, Tennessee. We are helping support work in the Philippines, work in Ghana, work in Europe, work up in Indiana. And we're fellow workers in the work for Christians all over the world. And that's something that we should be proud of, and we should be thankful for the men that are doing this preaching and the souls that they are saving. And so let's be thankful for Benjamin and for Mario and for John and for their families. And they literally, again, I can't help but think about Acts. I mean, they're literally traveling across villages and traveling across mountains and continents and time zones just to preach the gospel. And again, their work is our work and something that we have fellowship in. And I think that's one of the things that Romans chapter 10 as a whole really is kind of helping us to see, is that evangelism is a shared work. Obviously, we just had a class with the college kids and talking about personal evangelism, and we have things that we need to be doing personally, and we should be out spreading God's word and trying to teach others the gospel. But evangelism in this situation here, it really is a shared work. And we aren't the ones. I may not ever go to Ghana. I don't know any reason why I would, unless I'm going to go and try to do some mission work myself, but I don't know if I'll ever go to the Philippines. But yet I'm there doing this work right along, holding these men's hands and supporting them. And so again, that's something that just because we're not there physically, but because we're there supporting them financially, sending them messages, sending them cards, things to praying for them, praying for their work, praying for their families. We are taking part in the work so that the gospel can continue to be spread. So as we close this evening, obviously this has not been a sermon built to try to convince you of the gospel, but I hope that just from the report and seeing the work that these men are doing can be encouraging. And I hope that if you look back and think about just the baptisms, what does that tell us? God's word still has power. And you know what? The word that is being preached in Ghana and in the Philippines and in Europe, guess what? It's the exact same word that Jesse is preaching every Sunday morning right here, God's word. And it is still the power to save. And we should be very, very thankful for that, because the message that is being preached across the world is the same message that we preach here locally. And it's the same message that is calling you. And you may be someone that has never accepted the message, and maybe you need to obey the gospel tonight, and we would love for you to do that. Maybe you are in a situation where your faith has grown to the point of you recognize Christ as your Savior, and you recognize that you need to be baptized, and we want to help you with that, and we're willing to help you with that to this very night. And maybe you are a Christian, and maybe you have your faith has been weakened. And I hope that just from looking at some of the things and hearing about some of the things that these men and their families are doing, that your faith has been strengthened. But maybe you are a Christian and you just need prayers. Maybe you need to be strengthened in some regard. And we would love to help you with that tonight. And as I mentioned, the same gospel that is changing lives in Ghana and the Philippines and in Europe is the exact same gospel that can change your life even tonight. So if you are subject or if you need to respond, please come forward while we stand and sing the song that's been selected.